Hi, everyone. Thank you so much to the Farbindungen conference staff for putting this event together. Yes, my presentation is titled Rochele and Other Forgotten Froyen, an exploration of Yiddish women playwrights from 1877 to 1938. So, Rochele is a musical written by the prolific playwright Shana Rochel Semkov. Semkov penned at least 13 musicals and published numerous plays in Yiddish periodicals. While many of her works were performed in both New York and internationally, others were never produced. Rochele di Meshugane is one such of these works and details the life of the hopeful Yiddish playwright Rochele, who has a similar background to Shana Rochel herself. In using Rochele di Meshugane as a framing device, I will explore the lives of other Yiddish playwrights with similar immigrant backgrounds and secularish values who had their theatrical work produced or published. Notably, I will discuss 4 women writers who use their husbands' names as pseudonyms to do so. So, let me set the scene. Rochele di Meshugane is a Disney princess-like mix of Cinderella and Belle living in New York's Yiddish immigrant community in 1918. Unlike her smart cousin Etle, Rochele is known by all in her aunt's boarding house as the Nut. She sleeps in late, wastes time reading and writing, and cannot seem to accomplish even the simplest household task. Aunt Basha hits her and cannot wait to marry her off to the Nudnik Mince. However, one of the boarders, a writer known as the Everyman, is in love with her and sees Rochele's artistic soul. After a horrible day of teasing and abuse, Rochele is at her wit's end. She turns to the comfort of her little dog, because of course she can only discuss her hopes and dreams with small animals. She's Cinderella. And she states, I want to work in the sort of I want to work in the sort of work that I like. What good does it do to live? It's better to die. I want to write. They don't let me. I want to read. They don't let me. What I do write, they don't want to read. So, come, we'll do it quickly before Aunt Basha makes us marry mince. And with that, Rochele then proceeds to try and take her own life. This is how the first act of the romantic comedy, yes, comedy, of Semkov's Rochele di Meshugane ends. But don't worry, we have 3 more acts to go. So Rochele's struggle to get her work published is a microcosm for the larger issues of misogyny in Yiddish theater spaces. In my research, I've documented the names of 55 women who collectively wrote a minimum of 115 plays between 1877 and 1938. Using a document I created that records their names, copyright data, etc., I've uncovered groups of writers with shared characteristics. So of this group of 55 women, 51 wrote works exclusively under their own names. 1 wrote exclusively under her husband's name. 3 wrote both under their own names and under that of their husbands. Only 16 of the 53 who used their own names had their known scripts produced or published. Of the 4 who published or produced dramatic works using their husbands' names as pseudonyms, each had at least one of their works staged. Yeah. So sorry to throw these numbers at you, but the main takeaway is that many women were writing plays between 1877 and 1938. The larger issue was getting their work staged and published in theater spaces that were largely dominated by men. And it was especially hard to do so if you were writing under your own name like Rochele. So, yes. So the character of Rochele also reflects the education level and perception of education that many of our real-life playwrights had. In the broader context of evolving social and sexual norms in 20th century Europe and the Americas, the educational trajectories of many women played a pivotal role. For immigrant girls, a formal and quality education emphasizing independent thinking was perceived as a means to ascend the socioeconomic ladder. Jewish periodicals often advocated for the community benefits fostering independent thinking in girls, recognizing the economic and spiritual survival of families hinged on the efforts of both women and men. That being said, there was still tension between traditional values in the home, and Lucy Lang is a great example of this. And I'll discuss her more a little bit later. But her grandmother had her pulled out of high school for a time because she was being taught by non-Jews and learning alongside boys. As we see in both the historical record and in the play, there was often a holdover of traditionalist mentalities on gender. We can see why Rochele would be so frustrated in her speech. She was taught to read and write and dream. Like all of these other women, she had a secular education in public schools. And yet she isn't given the opportunity and encouragement she may have expected. So let's imagine now the curtain rising for Act Two. It opens with a meeting between fellow poor artists in the city who, at the everyman's behest, have accepted Rochela into their group after she survived the misery of Act One. Disappointed, Rochela sighs to her friends that no one will publish her plays. Instead, the publishers infantilize her by pinching her cheeks, or sexualize and sexually harass her by stroking her hair. A love triangle begins when Rochela and Joseph, a fellow artist in the group, share a passionate kiss. When the everyman sees, he tries to kick her out until Rochela goes, "Oh, no, 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 it's you I love." And so the everyman lets her stay. The power dynamic illustrated by Rochela's access being dependent on her romantic and sexual entanglements mirrors the same phenomenon in women's lived experiences. According to Norma Thane Pratt, to gain access to the inner sanctum of the literati, a woman had to usually be a wife, sister, or lover of a male writer. This moment is reminiscent of writer and translator Rachel Holtman's expulsion from her position at the community daily Freiheit newspaper. During her marriage to Moishe Holtman, the editor of the paper, Rachel wrote the Sunday Woman's page. However, when the couple divorced, she lost her position. So infantilization is also prevalent in reviews of women's work. Faith Jones identifies discriminatory methods in criticizing women, where theater critics often belittle women's work, dismissing it as naive or not serious enough. But let's return to Rochela. Rochela and her three manly dwarves, or princes, however you want to think about them, want to go to an artist salon so that Joseph can be inspired to paint the next great work of art. However, the collective faces a problem. The salon does not allow women besides sex workers to be in attendance. But don't fear, Rochela decides to dress as a man so that she and her friends can find inspiration at the salon. The third act skips ahead a couple of weeks, where the three are hanging out in a lavish apartment. Rochela is waiting to hear back about if her play was accepted for publishing that she just submitted. It is revealed that Rochela's plan has succeeded, and Joseph made a small fortune off his painting. Yet to the everyman's great annoyance, she refuses to stop dressing like a man. So, he says, "Go, better to remove the man from you. You dress in men's clothes and never want to remove them. Pleases me to be a man. I feel completely comfortable in pants." So, as previously mentioned, each of the four women who published or produced dramatic works using their husband's pseudonyms, had at least one of their works staged. And we can think about this as a form of literary cross-dressing. So these four women that I found were, were Polina Goldfaden, Lucy Lang, Frida Freeman, and Polina Kobrin. So Frida Freeman, you might recognize her as the true librettist of The Golden Bride, which was revived in 2015, was immensely successful under the guise of her husband. Out of 11 of her copyrighted works, 5 of them were produced in formal theater spaces and toured internationally, with each script credited to Louis Friedman. Lucy Lang also furthered her theater career by attributing her works to her husband, Harry Lang, who served as the labor editor for the Vorwärts in New York, while Lucy worked as a labor activist and writer for the same paper. Interestingly, one of their plays, a tragedy entitled Struggle for a Mother, was performed at Prospect Theater in the Bronx in 1932 with great success, and it was publicly acknowledged that Lucy Lang co-directed it with Jenny Goldstein, a well-known actress and prolific director. And yet, there is no mention that she was one who wrote this work, or at least wrote it in tandem with her husband. It's a little bit unclear. But yes, now let's move on to Polina Goldfaden. So though primarily recognized as the wife of Abraham Goldfaden, the father of Yiddish theater, Polina was a talented writer and translator in her own right. So Zilbertzweig notes that the majority of the French farces that Goldfaden's troupe performed were actually translated by Polina. And so now let's move on to Polina Corbin. So, yes, Polina Kobrin, wife of renowned writer Leon Kobrin, faced a similar situation. So while she often published skits under her maiden name Siegel, Kobrin was essential to translating various novels and theatrical works into Yiddish. However, many of Kobrin's translations were not penned in partnership with her husband, but completely by her lonesome. After Polina Coburn passed away, B.T. Goldberg, editor of Der Tag, a newspaper which Coburn often published in, revealed the truth. The play in Polina's own name was a drama entitled The Tragedy of a Woman, and it was performed in Sarah Adler's Novelty Theater in 1913 with Adler in the starring role. And so Adler actually had this work made for her, like she had it written for her by Coburn. So we have to wonder how confidential it was outside of the publishing houses that Coburn and women like her were writing under their husbands' names. But again, let's go back to Rochele. It's the end of Act 3, and our plucky heroine has just found out that a publisher has decided to publish her play. But instead of being happy, Rochele is distraught. She says that she paid a high price for it and whips off her hat to reveal that she cut her hair. She sobs and sobs, and Act 3 ends. This moment reflects the turmoil that can be caused by adopting male pseudonym. For Rochele, it wasn't only a darkening of ambition, like what happened with Polina Coburn, but a disconnection from her femininity and womanhood in the female community. When told that she's finally an artist, she retorts, "No, I'm not an artist. I'm Rochele the Nut." For to be an artist within the heteronormative and patriarchal society is equated with being a man. Dressed in drag, Joseph and the everyman no longer perceive her as a figure that one could fall in love with, as a sexual being or a romantic being. And Basha and Etela, women who did not value her interest before, now refuse to look at her. Her livelihood and gender nonconformity have distanced her from a woman-centric community. However, it's crucial to note that in reality, many of these writers knew one another and collaborated, as seen with Coburn and Adler, and Lucy Lang and Jenny Goldstein. Theater distinguishes itself from other genres with its inherently communal nature, and more work needs to be done on women, artists, community, and networks. In the fourth act, Rochele's writing is ignored, but the love plot reaches its conclusion. The act unfolds at a park picnic where, after leaving in despair in third act due to seemingly unrequited love for Rochele, Joseph reappears. The everyman reveals that he knew about her feelings for Joseph. Shocker. But he did a kind thing and sent for him so that the two could be together. It starts to rain, and Joseph and Rochele run to each other, professing their love. They embrace, they kiss, and our Disney Yiddish princess has gotten it all. She has her secret career as a writer, and she has her man, Mazel Tov. So to conclude, there were more women writing for theater spaces than one might think. While their voices might have been quieted like Rochele's, they were never fully silenced. I think one of the best ways of raising up their voices is to revive their work or to stage productions like Shana Rochel's Rochele Dima Shugane, which was never before staged. So I'd be grateful if someone could stage it so I could attend, because it's super fun and like really relevant. I think you'd all enjoy it too. Thank you so much. Yes.